The Czech arms industry is expanding abroad, also heading to the U.S. markets. The time when foreign entities entered Czech companies to preserve and expand the production of traditional Czech products has changed. Nowadays, in many sectors, it is Czech entities that either buy or enter a foreign company. A significant player in this trend is the Czechoslovak Group holding, which has bought the oldest Spanish munitions factory, Fábrica de Municiones de Granada, or acquired a majority stake in the Italian company Fiocchi Munizioni, a leading global producer of small-calibre ammunition. The most significant deal to date is the pending acquisition of a portion of Vista Outdoor, which includes world-renowned ammunition manufacturers such as Federal, CCI, Speer, Remington, and others under its sporting products division or the Kinetic Group for $1.9 billion. The fact that the Czechoslovak Group holding company is expanding into the USA is evidenced by the recent appointment of Paul Lemke as CEO of CSG USA, the American arm of the CSG Group. Paul Lemke already has a lot of experience not only from the Army, where he served for years.
My previous career before joining CSG actually spans quite a while. I was first in the U.S. Army. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel. I started my career in combat arms as an airborne ranger. And after spending several years in combat arms, I then transitioned into becoming a political military advisor and then a military attaché, and then worked in what's called security assistance. And what security assistance does is it assists our allied nations to train and equip their armed forces. So I did that mostly in Latin America, South America to be specific, and my specific area of concentration was counter-narcoterrorism. After retiring from the Army, I transitioned, of course, into civilian life and straight into business. And I did that by founding a small arms ammunition company called Polycase Ammunition. And Polycase was well known for two reasons. We had a polymer copper matrix projectile, which was very innovative and disruptive to the market, but also because of the relationships that we had through our two brands, Inceptor Ammunition and Ruger branded ammunition. And then I had the good fortune to be able to join a company called Amotech. Amotech is the largest small arms ammunition manufacturer in Europe. So I became the CEO of Amotech USA and helped that company grow from a small operation of about 28 people to over 150 people and over under about $10 million in revenue to over $150 million in a period of just about 3 years. Then, of course, I had the good fortune to meet a gentleman named David Stepan. David Stepan being the CEO of Ammo Plus, CSG Ammo Plus. And we met just a few months ago at the SHOT Show. And David told me all about CSG. So the Czechoslovak Group I had not heard of the Czechoslovak Group. That's kind of surprising since I've been in the space for 30 years, let's say. But that said, when he talked to me about CSG and the possibility of joining CSG as this entrepreneurial organization that's quickly growing, I said, you know what, if I have that opportunity, I would absolutely love to join this company.
At CSG USA, Paul Lemke is responsible for identifying opportunities for growth and innovation and developing strategic business relationships with key business partners in the U.S. market, including the U.S. Armed Forces, police forces, and other government agencies.
I'm the CEO of CSG USA. And as CEO of that organization, I'm responsible for several different functions. One is, of course, trade. And that's to try to bring CSG company products into the U.S. market, introduce them to the U.S. market. The other part of my responsibility is to collaborate, try to find partners or identify potential partners with whom to collaborate in the U.S. market. Why is that important? It's important because we are a relatively unknown organization in the United States. Therefore, it's beneficial to us to partner and collaborate as much as possible with other companies within the U.S. defense industrial base and also in the commercial space. And then finally, of course, I would say most importantly is to represent the Czechoslovak Group and all of its companies. The best way to enter into this market, into the U.S. market, is to identify a few areas of concentration. So we've already sold Polar One radars, which are handheld radars, and some other radars to the U.S. Navy and to other government agencies, and also to local police departments. So there has been some sales activity to date. That said, now we're concentrating on larger projects. We're looking at large ammunition projects, both in medium caliber and large caliber. And we're also looking at land systems. So, of course, Tatra is a well-known brand here in the Czech Republic. And Tatra happens to have some off-road capabilities that I believe are paramount to the future success of the U.S. military. They offer some unique characteristics and capabilities, and we absolutely plan to offer those vehicles into our market.
The war in Ukraine has impacted demand for indirect fire munitions, UAVs and anti-UAV systems in particular, as Paul Lemke confirms.
Most definitely. I mean, we do get a lot of requests already. We have had a lot of requests for information on UAVs and anti-UAV or anti-drone technologies. At the same time, like I said, in many cases, it's going back to the basics. And artillery indirect fires is a pretty basic requirement on the battlefield. So this is what we're most engaged in right now.
According to Lemke, the U.S. market does not distinguish between domestic and foreign production, but between quality and meeting customer product requirements.
So that's not to say that there is not a preference for something that's made in America. I think that when the price is right, and the technology is correct, it has the right characteristics or specifications, then yes, it makes a lot of sense. But quite frankly, it's no secret that multinationals from all over the world are doing business in the United States, and they're doing that successfully, which basically means that there's no issue with Americans buying buying foreign products. I think it's a great for us. The important thing to keep in mind is the fact that in the defense sector, 60% of a product has to have what's called local content. So in order to really reach our full potential as a company in the United States, we have to manufacture in the United States. And we can do that two ways. We can either acquire companies and conduct and manufacture through those acquisitions, or of course we can enter into joint ventures and collaborate through partnerships.
We were interested in the advantages and disadvantages of a foreign firm entering the U.S. market.
What one company may call a disadvantage, we call an advantage. And what I would specifically what I'm talking about is when a foreign company invests in the United States, they have to go through a process called or an approval process through the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, or CFIUS. The CFIUS process requires a tremendous amount of transparency with a company. So not only does the review process require this transparency, but then typically after approval, especially on a acquisition that's has to do with national defense or national strategic importance, then there will be what's called a national security agreement that's signed between CFIUS and the company that's purchasing or conducting foreign direct investment in the United States. That then that NSA, or National Strategic Agreement, requires a tremendous amount of transparency moving forward also, specifically annual audits that are done by a third party, and then national level agencies in the United States, from the United States government, can visit companies at any point. So it's not only the headquarters, but any of the sister companies or any of the companies within a holding.
As part of CSG Holdings' portfolio expansion, We also asked about a recent acquisition involving Vista Outdoor, specifically a division of Kinetic Group.
All right, there's really two parts of the acquisition that are vital. One is what I touched on earlier in our interview, and that was the CFIUS process, and requires a tremendous amount of documentation, transparency, and we've been through that process before with the acquisition of Fiocchi Munizioni and its subsidiary, of course, Fiocchi of America. So we feel good about that process and believe that we'll receive approval from CFIUS any day now. The other part of the acquisition process is, of course, the acquisition itself. And because we're dealing with a publicly traded company, that means, again, ensuring that people understand who we are as a company and why we would be a very good partner for the company itself, for the employees, and for the nation, the hunters, all of the users of the sporting munitions, and of course also all the potential end users for any defense or security related munitions that might come out of those plants. What I can say is that we feel confident that the CFIUS process will be positive, that we will be granted approval for the acquisition of the Kinetic Group. And we're also aware that there's a shareholder meeting in June, and we are quite confident and hopeful that the shareholders of Kinetic Group will understand that we are interested in acquiring this company not only to have access, of course, to that munition, but to grow the portfolio, to grow sales. We'd like to make sure that the U.S. sporting shooter and, of course, then also the U.S. Department of Defense have options other than maybe some of the other companies that are in the market. So we feel confident about it. We believe we're a good choice. We're also interested in, of course, investing further into those plants. We're interested in employing more people, more workforce, and of course, helping with economic development in those communities.